Shabbat Shalom. I hope so far you are having a wonderful Shabbat. As we begin this Shabbat morning, how good and how wonderful it is for us to be together. Hine matov, umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. And as we begin to pray together this morning, a little bit of Torah to start. Our parasha this morning is Parashat Noach, in which we get the study of Noach, or the story of Noach, or Noah. Noah, who of course is called on by God. He is mentioned as being righteous in his generation and called on by God to build an ark, to bring on animals, 2 of every kind. And there is a flood. It rains 40 days and 40 nights. And Noah and his family are saved, as are the animals. And once the dove comes back with an olive branch, Noah and his family leave the ark. And what God says to Noah and his family is basically to move throughout the earth and to be fruitful and to multiply, to replenish the earth. And we're told that one of his sons goes in this direction, one of his sons goes in this direction, and yet another son goes in this direction. And we get all of the names and the lineage of the sons and so on. And then as we come towards the end of the parasha, we find out that all the people have somehow come back to this place in the east called Shinar, and they now all speak one language, as if they speak with one voice. And they say to each other, you know what, we are going to reach up to God. We want to build something really tall, and we want it to go as high as heaven so that we can reach God, that we can touch God, we can be at one with God. Not recognizing that they already could have done that. They could have done that just by living their lives, just by doing what God had wanted them to do back at the beginning after the flood, and that was to spread out, to be fruitful, to multiply. It didn't matter if they spoke the same language, if they looked the same way, or lived in the same place. Rather, God wanted them to fill the earth. And so ultimately, God is angry and upset, but God made a promise, so God doesn't do away with the people. Instead, God decides he's going to sort of fumble things a little bit, and God gives them the ability to no longer understand one another. This person speaks this language, this person speaks that language, and so on, and nobody understands anybody else, and ultimately they spread out among the earth. And so perhaps what God in the end did was forced them to do what God had initially planned for them to do. And that was to really be everywhere, to create communities and civilizations all around the world, and to recognize that one can be in relationship with God in any sort of number of ways. We as Jews recognize that we have a path toward God, but we also recognize that others may have their own path towards God, and that path may be right for them, whereas our path is right for us. But the important thing is that we reach out to God, not by building tall buildings or setting up idols, but that we reach through God. We reach for God through our actions, through our words, through our daily deeds, and just by living life. And so, we turn to page 287 as we begin to pray. It is not we alone who pray. All things pray. All things pour forth their souls. The heavens pray, the earth prays, every creature and every living thing prays. In all life there is longing. Creation itself is but a longing, a prayer to the Almighty. What are the clouds, the rising and the setting of the sun, the soft radiance of the moon and the gentleness of the night? What are the flashes of the human mind and the storms of the human heart? They are all prayers, the outpouring of boundless longing for God. So we continue with our morning prayers on page 290. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Va'ani berov chasdecha avovetecha eshtachavel hechal kodshecha be'yiratecha. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Va'ani tefilati lecha Adonai et ratzon Elohim berov chasdecha aneni be'emet yishecha. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. And this morning we thank God for our bodies and for our bodies working. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced network. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life, were one of them to fail, how well we are aware. We would lack the strength to sustain life before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and strength. Baruch atah Adonai, rofeh chol basar umafli la'asot. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. The soul that you have given me, O God, is pure. You created and formed it, breathed it into me, and within me you sustain it. So long as I have breath, therefore, I will give thanks to you, my God and God of all ages, source of all being, loving guide of every human spirit. Baruch atah Adonai, asher biyado nefesh kol chai, baruach kol basar ish. And we think of those things that we can do that help us reach toward God. Elu devarim she'ein lahem shiur. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. And as we continue now in our service on page 313, we rise for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach on page 314, the world is sunlight, restoring the soul, rejoicing the heart, bringing light to the eyes, more welcomed than gold, a Torah from heaven. I have no light to give the morning. My Torah, my special human gift, is words. As I bring my words forth from silence, welcome them, you who redeems the sun from darkness. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. And on page 317, O God, inspiration and guide for all, you have spoken in 1,000 tongues for us to hear. In every land and every age, your children have heard you and imagined you in separate ways. And yet, O God, you are one, unifier of humanity. We give thanks for the sages and teachers who bring us understanding of your will. Gratefully, we recall the lawgivers and prophets, the psalmists and sages of Israel. And joyfully, we remember that from the dawn of Israel's life, we would turn to you and find purpose. May the teachings of our ancestors live on in our minds, and their passion for righteousness stir our hearts. Help us to live so that our daily conduct reveals the beauty and the wisdom of your truth. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher ba'amo Yisrael, ba'ahava, as we join together in words of Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated if you are standing. And we'll join together in the English of Ve'ahavta on page 319. Love Adonai your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, and with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gates. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai your God. So we turn to page 321. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravaged by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace, as we join together. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, osei fele, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. And we turn in our prayer books to page 323 as we rise for the Amidah. Adonai sifatai tivtachu fia ki tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. 3:24. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Bekonei Hakol Bezocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot Umevi Gehula Livnei V'neihem Lema'an Shemo B'Ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, page 325. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai mechayeh hakol atah Rav lehoshia Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem Mechalkel chayim bechesed Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim Zohomech noflim verofech holim Umatir asurim Umekayem emunato Lishenei afar Micha mocha ba'al gevurot Umido melach Melach meimit umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman atah l'chachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol. 3:26. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam Keshem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom Kakatuv al yad neviecha V'kara zel zeh ve'amar Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tsevaot, Meloch ol haaretz, Kevodo, Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu, Madir Shim, Chabechol haaretz, Baruch Kevod Adonai, Mimkomo. Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu, hu Malkeinu, hu Moshienu, vehu Yashmienu, berachamav leinei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Yimloch Adonai leolam, Elohai Sion, ledor vador, Hallelujah. Ledor vador nagikod lecha, ulenetzach netzachim kedushatcha nakdish, v'shivcha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush, leolam vahed. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You may be seated, and we turn to page 330. On this Shabbat day, as you graciously receive our prayers, help us to hear your call. Grant us enough health to fulfill our duties and the compassion we need to attend to others. Teach us humility that we may perceive our own faults, and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. Give us the courage to be true to our highest selves, and the charity to see the best in those around us. Give us patience enough not to become discouraged, hope enough to overcome all fears for the future, and faith enough to know your presence. O source of blessing, look with favor upon us. May our offerings be acceptable to you. We praise you, Adonai, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odcha levadcha beyirah na'avod. And we join together in a prayer for peace on page 334. O God, may we never become complacent, faltering in our effort to build a world of peace. Let the nations know and understand that justice and right are better than dominion and conquest. May all come to see that it is not by might nor by power, but by your Spirit that life prevails. Praised are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai hamivarech et amo Yisrael, Bashalom. And we take a moment for silent and personal prayer. Yehiyu liratzon imrei fi vegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri Vegoali. And as we pray, we offer prayers for so many things, but especially on Shabbat, we offer prayers for healing. And this morning, if you are thinking of someone who is in need of healing, be it a physical, spiritual, or emotional healing, please call their name aloud at this time. And we take those names into our hearts. Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu, may the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all who are ill. May the blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, as together we say, Amen. And we turn to page 586 for Aleinu, if you would all please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, la'teit gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. Banachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu Yeh Adonai echad, Ushemo echad. And we now think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. This Shabbat, the heartfelt condolences of our congregation go out to the families of Alan Furfine, Tamadine Altman Goldenhirsch, and Harlan J. Raymond. We are in the period of Shloshim for Geraldine Jerry Friedman, David Kahn, Eleanor Ellie Kassoff, Jason Scott Koenig, Jerome Edward Jerry Rich, Manuel Rodriguez, Eileen Rosenthal, Ronald C. Tuchman, Margaret Friedman Vaughn. This week, this Shabbat, we observe the Yartzeit as we lovingly remember Herman Steinberg. Zichronam livracha, may each of their memories be for blessing, as we turn to the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitgadal ve'yikadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach yeruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chaye chon uv'yomei chon, uv'chaye jachol beit Yisrael, Bagala uvizman karib v'imru amen. Yehe shemei rabba mevorach leolam omei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudasha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Damiram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen. I feel like we should sing, the Lord said to Noah, there's going to be a floody, Lord said, but we won't sing that for Shabbat. Instead, we'll recognize the beautiful day that this Shabbat is, and a recognition that in our parasha, the rainbow is the sign of the covenant between God and between Noah and all of humanity. That rainbow being a sign that God will not flood the earth again, will not destroy human beings, no matter their behavior. At the same time, we Jews have a symbol, a sign, an oath between God and the Jewish people, and that is Shabbat. And that when we guard Shabbat and make it beautiful, when we observe Shabbat, we recognize that it is forever a sign between ourselves and between God. Ki yeshmera Shabbat el yishmereni. Ki yeshmera Shabbat el yishmereni. Oti leomead beino uveni. Oti leomead beino uveni. Ki eshmera Shabbat el yishmereni. Ki eshmera Shabbat el yishmereni. Oti leomead beino uveni. Oti leomead beino uveni. Shabbat Shalom. I hope it is a day of rest, maybe a day of a little bit of quiet, and certainly a day of peace. Enjoy today.